Okay, I think we're ready. Have I got an echo?
Test 1, 2.
So we're fine to go?
Yes, Chair, we have quorum and we can proceed.
Amazing. Good morning, everyone. And I'd like to welcome the public and call the meeting to order. This clerk, as you've heard, has our land acknowledgement.
Thank you. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabeg, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit.
Mute. Okay, sorry, I was having trouble getting it unmuted. Thank you very much. We're going to move to the declaration of interest. Any and also September 15th, both. September 15th, our regular meeting, and then our emergency meeting in November 5th. Okay, so I've got a motion by
Sorry, Madam Chair, we can't hear you. Or is it me?
No, your audio's cutting out.
now Julie's froze. Can you hear me?
I heard that.
Chris Ann, can you hear me?
Yes, Chair, we can hear you. Perhaps try shutting your camera off.
Thank you. I will try that. Let's hope this works. Okay. So as always, it's an open meeting. I'm going to go through the agenda in 2 minutes. As always, 5 minutes for questions and to speak in that order. If you wish to submit a motion, please email your motion to the email address that you've been provided. And if you have any technical issues, which I am, we'll help you troubleshoot. Hopefully my voice is being heard now. So let's go through the order paper. We have the CEO's report, so I'll hold that in my name. ACAT is here today, so again, I'll hold that item in my name. And the appointment of the members. We could probably do that through the rundown. Do we want to do that now, or? I'll do that. I'll just go ahead and do that. So we've got a number of new ACAT members. I'm happy to announce the following people will or have been appointed to ACAT for a term starting January 1st, 2022 to December 31st, 2024. And apologies in advance if I don't pronounce your name properly, but we are happy that you're here and welcome you with open arms and look forward to working with you. So Anita Dressler, Wangira Makura, Elizabeth Sahoy Shuri, Erica Tanny, and Howard Wax. The following persons have been appointed for the term starting January 1st to January 31st, 2022 to reestablish a pool of members. And those names are Lauren Foote, Robert Hanson, Lorraine LeCamp, and Bobby Moore. So congratulations to all of those members joining the ACAT team. And as I said, we look forward to collaborating and working with you. ACAT's been a huge asset for the TTC board. So let's just say congratulations and let's vote on this now. All those in favor? Opposed? And I'll just put my camera on so you see me. Opposed? That carries. The next item is fare collection. I'm holding that for a deputation, as I am number 5, which is the schedule of meetings. Number 6, does anybody want to move number 6, proxy to vote to TTC fares in Toronto Coach Terminal? Any of the members? Okay, we've got a Commissioner McKelvey with her hand up. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. And then a financial update for the period ended October 2nd. And major projects update. If no one's else holding, okay, we've got, yeah. Would you like to hold that, Commissioner Lai?
Yes, please.
Yes, okay,
Yes, please.
got it. I put it in your name. All right, great. All right, so item 3 passed, so we're going to continue into public session. And so we're going to start now with our first item, which would be the CEO report from Rick Leary.
Thank you, Chair Robinson, and good morning to everyone. I'd like to welcome again our YouTube viewers and today's participants to the board's virtual meeting. Commissioners, first I'd like to start by providing you with an update on the rollout of our mandatory vaccination policy. As I know you're aware, on November 20th, the Ontario Superior Court denied a request from one of our union partners for an injunction against the policy, allowing us to move forward on November 21st. And last week, we began reporting out on the vaccination status of our employees. I'm pleased to advise you that as of today, 95% of TTC's 15,000 active employees have shared their status in accordance with the policy. Of them, 93% are fully vaccinated, with roughly another 200 people already having their first dose. But the great news for us is that the vast majority of our current workforce will be compliant with the policy, and I believe that this is the right thing for our organization, for our employees, for their families, and our customers. Now, for our customers, this means that we'll be able to return to scheduled service that was temporarily reduced this month in the anticipation of reduced workforce. And on that note, last Monday, we were also able to put out into service 94% of our bus and subway service and 100% of our streetcar service when compared to the prior week's service level. So there's some good news there. And now that was made possible by the mitigation initiatives, the measures we put in place, as well as having the additional employees vaccinated. Now, for mitigation initiatives, for instance, as you recall, early this summer, we began hiring new operators throughout this year, as well as we canceled weekend and early closures with the reallocation of our shuttle buses and our resources. So in the meantime, we continue to prioritize services for the best of on our busiest transit corridors during our busiest times of day for tracking our ridership. And I just would like to point out that last week, we saw bus ridership hit a high of 85% of pre-pandemic levels. Now, the TTC remains focused on providing reliable, dependable, and accessible service to all of our customers, protecting services for those who need us the most, and delivering that service that customers expect and deserve is our goal. The executive team and I want to thank everyone who complied with this policy. We also appreciate our customers for their support and understanding during this time as we work to restore full service back as quickly as possible. Excuse me. Now, and speaking of service improvements, on November 21st, we now have every day one-person train operation, we call it Opto, was introduced on portions of Line 1 between Vaughan Metropolitan Center and St. George. And as you know, we actually began running Opto on Line 1 on August 1st, but that was on Sundays only as we prepared for testing and to let you know that the testing was very successful. The rest of the Line 1 between St. George and Finch Station, it will continue using the legacy system for the time being. While customers won't see any impact on service, Opto represents several benefits, including fewer safety-related incidents and delays, more efficient subway operations, and a modern transit system. Now, I remind people that, at the TTC, Line 3 has been Opto since its inception in 1998, and in October of 2016, Opto was implemented on all of Line 4. It has since operated safely, reliably, and efficiently on both lines. I'll let you know that all operators are trained to assist passengers, including passengers with mobility devices. Operators are equipped with handheld radios, allowing them to leave their cab to attend passengers in need of assistance. I'd let you also know that there are additional station staffing on all subway platforms. Opto is now a commonplace in most major metropolitan transit systems, including the following: Paris, London, Chicago, Los Angeles, Montreal, Boston, Berlin, Madrid, Hong Kong, as well as others. So as you can see, we're in good company. Now, also on top of the improvement service, this past weekend, Wheeltrans' self-booking website was updated to include a number of new helpful features. And these include the options, for instance, where people can now go on and request an early pickup time, as well as see where my ride is tracking feature, as well as the Where is my ride tracking feature. Anyone with questions on the upgrades, please feel free to call our Wheeltrans Customer Service Center at 416-393-4111. We're open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Commissioners, as you're aware, late last month, the TTC was victim to a cybersecurity incident. This impacted a number of our functions across the organization. We were pleased that customer-facing functions were quickly returned online and that this incident did not compromise the safety of our operations. Now, although 85% of our affected systems have been restored, IT staff continue to work diligently to bring remaining functions fully online while being mindful of the safety, security, and business continuity. We continue to monitor the situation, and we know that at this time, none of the potential information that was taken has been misused. Our investigation into the incident was ongoing, and we will continue to update board members and staff. Now, as we head into the holiday period, I'd like everyone to know that the spirit of giving at the TTC is strong. I'm pleased to tell you that employee volunteers across the organization are participating in various donation drives for toys, clothing, and food for those in our community most in need. The TTC Stuff the Bus campaign kicked off on November 27th and runs through December 11th. This year, employees are collecting new and unwrapped toys in support of sick kids, Abuse Hurts, and the Lamp Community Health Center. We also invite the public to participate in a number of our events, and I'm going to let you know where these locations are. We're going to be at Walmart at 165 North Queen Street in Etobicoke on December 4th and 5th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. We'll be at the Duke Live at 1225 Queen Street East in Toronto from 3:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. on December 4th, as well as at Toys R Us at Sherway Gardens Mall in Etobicoke on December 11th all day. Now, I'll tell you there's more. Excuse me. An employee-driven winter coat drive for the Mount Dennis community is underway with the support of the Toronto Region Chapter of COMTO, the Toronto Police 12 Division, and the Learning Enrichment Foundation. Now, this year, the goal is to collect 1,000 winter coats for children and youth. Now, another donation drive by our special constables, station supervisors, and transit control collected 45 pairs of boots and over 1,500 pairs of socks that will be donated to the Scott Mission in Toronto. As well, there's more. The TTC staff volunteers have been collecting cans of soup that will be donated to the Veterans Association Food Bank. I can't thank everyone enough for their community spirit and for contributing their time and efforts to these drives. It's clear to me that TTC employees are very appreciative of what they have, and they're willing to give back to their community. Now, the TTC also has a long and proud tradition of supporting the annual Poppy Drive. As we do each year, the TTC paid tribute to the Canadians fallen on Remembrance Day by pausing all service for 2 minutes at 11 a.m. on November 11th to honor those who died in service of our great country. We also provided free service to current and former members of Canada's military and a companion. It was my pleasure and privilege to lay the wreath on behalf of all TTC employees and pensioners at the cenotaph at Old City Hall. During World War II, more than 600 TTC workers enlisted for service. Their names are remembered on the TTC's official honor rolls, which hang in a prominent place at our headquarters in 1900. It includes the identification of those dozen that died in action. Now, also speaking of honors, at yesterday's Toronto Raptors game, 2 of our operators were recognized and presented, were recognized as representatives of the great work our employees do day in and day out. I'd like to thank and acknowledge Tanika Udu from McNichol Division, as well as Starlet Benyaku from Melbourne Division, for being wonderful representatives at this organization. And it's great to see that Toronto's major teams taking the time to acknowledge the amazing work of public transit workers, and they include the Raptors, the Maple Leafs, and the Blue Jays. And finally, I'd like to remind the audience that the TTC Audit and Risk Management Committee is meeting virtually on Thursday, December 2nd, and that meeting will be online at 8:30 a.m. and will be live streamed on the TTC's official YouTube channel. So with that, Chair, that concludes my opening remarks.
Okay, thank you very much. And I've got stop that. Okay. We've got questions for you. So Commissioner Lai is first.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Rick, for your CEO report. I just wanted to see whether you have an update on some of the operations as how many bus routes are affected due to our vaccination policy.
Yes, through the chair. There were approximately 50 local bus routes which had service adjustments recently, starting last week, and about 9 express bus routes that had service adjustments.
And how are you coping with it? Are there a lot of customer service being affected, and how are you dealing with it?
Through the chair, we have been receiving some customer comments about the service changes, although I would say we've been receiving fewer than we might have expected.
Okay, thank you. The next question I would have for you is that at the end of September, we are 44% pre-COVID, and then the bus is 55%. Wheeltrans is 45%. How is ridership numbers in the last 2 months, in October and November? I just wanted a kind of a verbal update on that.
So through the chair, our ridership through October, November has been roughly around 48, 49%. And of course, that's different by mode. That's overall. Clearly, bus is above the 50% pre-COVID normal, and we continue to see lower values for streetcar and subway.
Through the chair, if I could, I just want to correct. I might have thrown you off, Councillor Lai. It was 58%. Last week we hit a 58% high on ridership and bus, so I apologize for that. I just said it backwards.
So it has improved a little bit, I suppose. That's what I wanted to.
Yes, that's correct. We're seeing an increase.
Since the report that you are presenting now, correct?
That is correct,
okay.
Councillor.
Thank you. Thank you. Those are my questions, Madam Chair.
Very much. Good questions. Commissioner Bradford is next.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. And Rick, thanks to you and the team for all the hard work. Great presentation, good update, and obviously lots of stuff going on at the Commission. So appreciate your leadership and all of that and moving us forward. That 58% number, I know that we've been really working on encouraging folks to come back to transit, back to the TTC. We did a big promotional push in the fall here. We had that really nice YouTube video. How are we measuring the metrics on the relationship between ridership increase and our communication outreach? Do we have a sense of what's working? Obviously, we're moving in the right direction at 58%, but do we have a sense of what's working with respect to our communication outreach and engagement and how folks are coming back?
Through the chair, we've got very good feedback on that Welcome Back campaign that we did, the first phase of it. We are planning to roll out a second phase of that. We do watch very carefully, of course, the ridership numbers that result from that, and we also do our quarterly customer metrics to gauge how our customers are feeling about the system, and the numbers we're seeing on those remain pretty consistent throughout the pandemic in the last quarter.
Could you give me a few more details then, just on that sort of second phase of how we're getting folks back from a communication standpoint, what that looks like, how we're encouraging the ridership, and what that looks like as we move into 2022?
Yes, through the chair. The first phase was very much about welcome back with, as you said, that nice video of the singing. And then the second phase is focusing much more on identifying places that people can come back to for leisure travel, but also for work travel. And so it will be more specific about locations and things in Toronto that people would want to come out and see.
Are we giving any thought to, I guess, targeted outreach with respect to routes that, we've got the 58% average. I suspect it's an average, so it's not the same across the board. There's routes that are higher and there's routes that are lower. Would any of the targeted campaign be focused on some of those areas or locations where ridership is lower or not where we want it to be? And then, whether you're talking about locations or reasons to get on the TTC, trying to tune that for those routes and parts of the system that haven't reached, the 58% and beyond yet?
Through the chair, we'll take that away as something to look at. We do focus the social media advertising quite carefully, and we are being very careful in the second phase of this to not just highlight downtown examples, but also to highlight attractions throughout the city.
Good to hear. Going to kind of shift a little bit, city councillor hat here. I'm increasingly hearing about overcrowding on different routes and longer wait times. When I look at the CEO report, that's not necessarily reflected in the graphs, but it is reflected in folks' experience, and we see photos and different things like that to that extent. So, all of the important work that we're doing to increase the ridership, how do we at the TTC measure ridership levels on a route by route level versus sort of the broader averages that get presented in the reports?
Through the chair, we have a very extensive system of measuring ridership on essentially every bus, streetcar, and subway route as they happen. We feed real-time information to transit control for immediate solutions, but from a planning point of view, we also use the ridership essentially by hour on all routes, and then make adjustments in the future as necessary. During the pandemic, we've shifted to more real-time monitoring in the sense that we've tried to identify actual crowding levels, and as you see in the CEO's report, we have for some time now reported on crowding levels at 70%, 50%, and 30%. And as you mentioned, your perception is absolutely correct. The amount of crowding at the 70% level has increased since September, but that is kind of normal and expected when September rolls around, and so we will be watching that very carefully.
So let me ask this question then, and that's all well and good. The seats that are still blocked off on vehicles, if we are at 70% and beyond, and that's a positive thing that folks are comfortable and they're coming back to transit. I love that. I think that's great. But if we're do we have a framework in place at the TTC for how we're going to change those sort of distancing measures when we are starting to face overcrowding, and in some cases already facing overcrowding, but we have some seats that are still blocked off at this point? Like if the bus is packed, do we need to have this sort of blocking off of the seats at that point? And how do we get there?
Through you, Chair, I'll take that one. So as we identify in the CEO report, there's about 3% of our bus routes or buses that have the service of 70%. So the greatest number of buses across the city not having that the problem that you see in that area. We're actually in discussions now about when do we take those seats off, right? When we know that there's signage on the seats. We've been having that discussion, and originally the intent was to get, once we got 50% across the board, right, we were going to go back to 100% of service, and then everything would be removed. So we're right at that peak, that period right now, where we're looking at that as we get that 49 to 50 on a regular basis. So very shortly, I could tell you that we're having a discussion later on this week on it, but they'll be coming off shortly as we always planned.
Oh, okay. That's good to hear. And I see I'm kind of out of time there, so thanks. Thanks, Madam Chair.
You got a lot into that 6 minutes. Okay.
Thanks, folks.
We didn't catch you, but you did well. Okay, so I didn't see any other questions, so I'm going to move to speakers unless there's anybody else with a question. So our first speaker, and maybe our only, I don't know, is Commissioner Lai.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to commend our CEO Rick and the management team for a good job over this very difficult time. I don't think it's just the the impact of the COVID and the vaccination policy, and then the cyber attack and all that is not an easy task to handle all these things all at the same time. And in the meantime, I wanted to commend the team for their cost containment. We're doing our budget now, so they have found savings, and although we are receiving funds from senior levels of government during this time, I think we're managing better. And I hope that we will get some funding. I mean, we'll confirm the funding by the other orders of government. Also, I wanted to kind of touch on briefly on commending the reaching of the 40% target of hiring women for our transit operator positions. And it's very, very important that reach the goal. And I really wanted to congratulate the team. And having said that, all that, I will support the report. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Is there any other speakers on the CEO report? Commissioner Bradford, did you want to speak, or okay, great. Okay, thank you, everyone. So all those in favor, well, just a motion to receive, I guess, the CEO's report. Opposed, that carries. We'll move to item 2, approved minutes of the Advisory Committee of ACAT, Accessible Transit. And I would now like to invite the chair of ACAT, Igor. Igor, if you would present the ACAT minutes, please.
Thank you very much, Chair Robinson and Vice Chair De Laurentiis. Good morning, Commissioners. I have 3 items that I just want to bring to folks' attention today. So the first is in regards to ACAT recruitment. I just want to congratulate the 9 new members of ACAT that will be starting their terms on January 1st, 2022, including 5 new members for a 3-year term and 4 new pool members for a 1-year term. I also want to thank all those that submitted an application and the interview committee for their dedicated work in ensuring that we have 5 new excellent members who I think will do a spectacular job moving ACAT along with returning members into 2022 and beyond. My second item is the launch of the TCC's new website. I just want to thank ACAT members for their feedback, insights into making the website as accessible as possible, especially the Communication Subcommittee, who's been working on this for some time now with TTC staff, and the subcommittee chair, Angela Marley. I want to also further just thank staff who contributed to the development of this website. It was an incredible undertaking. The website is in a constant state of improvement and will be updated over the next several months to tie up any loose ends with regards to accessibility. And finally, my third item is in regards to the cyber attack incident that occurred. I just want to thank ACAT members for stepping up and assisting their fellow Wheeltrans users by taking calls, answering emails, and sharing helpful information while the service was down and while it started back up to regular normal service. I also want to thank staff for their behind-the-scenes work, troubleshooting, and coming up with on-the-spot solutions to ensure that Wheeltrans remain operational within the difficult context of the incident. And with that, I want to thank everyone. Happy to answer any questions. Thanks.
We've got one for you, Igor, from Commissioner Lai.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, I just wanted to have a quick question on your August notes. You made reference to the community bus. I just, staff will know that I've been in contact with them on this issue, and I'm wondering if someone can provide me with further details on some of the routes and bus stops location changes.
Through the chair, I don't know if that would be a question that I would be able to answer. My sincere apologies, Commissioner.
I'm sorry, maybe staff can quickly answer that question? Thank you.
Through the chair, we will contact you directly, Councillor, and get back to you with more information on that.
Okay, thank you.
You, Commissioner Bradford.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I'll be brief, and thanks to you, Igor, in your chairship of ACAT and the entire team there. Welcome to the new folks who will be serving. Just want to pick up on your comments about the cyber attack and the interface with Wheeltrans. What was the feedback that you were hearing from our customers and the concerns from folks that were reaching out about Wheeltrans as it related to the cyber attack?
Thank you, Councillor Bradford. Through the chair, I think some of the feedback we were receiving from the public and Wheeltrans users, which was expected at the time when the incident happened, was that there was some miscommunication in terms of what the process was at that point in time, in terms of trying to book a trip, not being able to, difficulties with remaining on the phone lines. So that was sort of the general information and feedback we were receiving from the public at the time in regard to that. And our ACAT members were helping facilitate that process in terms of communicating with the public, as communication, as you know, was difficult at the time from the TTC. So we took it upon ourselves, through the limited amount of information we had, to assist our colleagues and peers who use Wheeltrans with giving them information around to remain calm, to wait on lines, to be able to book trips, that they would be able to book a trip, etc. So,
well, that's very helpful that you folks were able to do that and find the time to do that outreach. I know that the cybersecurity issues were extremely disruptive for everyone, and certainly, TTC management and leadership and everyone who works at the commission carried a tremendous amount of water to help us navigate and get through that. What was the I think we all learned a lot about what happens when communication channels break down and how difficult that is, and we all had to find different ways to communicate. How were you and folks of ACAT able to connect with TTC to ascertain that information, to be able to get the updates to your customers?
Thank you for the question. I think that the TTC put into place a process where they were able to communicate with us via phone. So as folks may know, it was difficult at times to communicate via traditional channels. And so we were reached out to on a regular basis, or I was personally, from TTC staff, which was great, to be able to disseminate information via the connections that I had to ACAT members and then to the rest of the public from there.
Okay. Well, again, thanks to you and your leadership and everyone on ACAT. Challenging times, but appreciate all your help with this. Thanks very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Bradford. Any other questions? Seeing none, I would thank our ACAT Chair, Igor, for your presentation and ask for a motion to receive the ACAT minutes. All in favor? Opposed? That carries. Next item is item 4, fare collection lines 5 and 6 readiness. We do have a deputation on this item, Alan Yule. We're having a bit of trouble connecting with them, so I'll just ask the clerk if we've been able to do that successfully.
Hi, Chair. We are still working to connect with the deputant.
So what's your recommendation on this item? It was held for the deputant. Should we recommend we come back to it, or?
Subject to whether or not there's any questions from members, I would suggest we move on, although the next item is also held for a deputant, so we may just need a moment to connect.
Okay, so I'll just ask the board if there's any questions on item 4, fare collection lines 5 and 6 readiness. I don't see any.
It's Denzel.
Oh, Denzel, you have a question? Go ahead, please.
I do. We're buying new equipment, yes?
Through the chair, that's correct. There are additional fare gates being purchased for the Line 5 and Line 6 stations.
So we're also in a where we may be going out for a new vendor. We haven't come to that. Is that correct?
Through the chair, that is correct, although you are speaking about the fare card system. In particular here, we're speaking about the actual fare gates.
Okay, so the fare gates are not connected with the fare card system and doesn't in any way constrain or in any way make it any more difficult if we were to transition over to a new system. Is that fair to say?
Through the chair,
sure
through the chair, yes, we agree with that. That we believe they are essentially separate and can be plugged in and unplugged as necessary.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Jay.
Thank you. Okay, so I think we have secured our connection with Alan Ewell. So if Alan, you could start.
Oh, Madam Chair, can you hear me?
Perfectly, Alan.
Okie doke. I don't have my screen up and running, so I'm going to have to do this as a verbal one with no pictures. Sorry. Okay. Just 1 second here, ma'am. This report is titled Fare Collections for Lines 5 and 6 Readiness. While we look at this readiness, we should be looking at updating and improving our fare collection along these two new rail routes. To avoid confusion, we keep our route messaging consistent on our buses. Like the 29, the 329 is the Blue Knight, the 929 is the Express. Just like our streetcar network with the 500 route series, the lines 5 and 6 are proof of payment lines. We should be expanding the POP lines on our express buses, servicing Humber College. Routes 944 and 927 service Humber College can be converted to POP. These would use the same campus advertising budget that will be used to explain how to pay for your rides on Line 6. The 900 series of express buses were and always were meant to be eventually POP. They were designed to have consistent customer messaging. They were designed to survive legal challenges when it comes to fare evasion tickets. TTC staff may not know this, but many years and one TTC chair ago, I happened to do a presentation where I proposed that we change all express and rocket bus routes to 900 series. This was to help provide a consistent customer experience in route messaging. And while we weren't ready for POP, so I left that part out at that time. This report wants to spend $6.18 million on supply, installation, and maintenance of fare gates for Presto. This includes the purchase of 200 more fare gates. The TTC's Departments of Strategy and Foresight, as well as Revenue and Operations, think this will provide the same fare collection experience on the remaining TTC network and maintain and expanding consistencies throughout the customer experience. And it will also ensure that TTC revenue is protected. This is from page 5 of 7 of the report. Fare gates are a 19th century fare collection paradigm. And TTC staff wants to put these on 21st century transit lines. If you think fare gates will protect you, then you're wrong. The TTC turned 100 this year. Why do we want to use 19th century fare collection paradigm on 21st century transit lines? This report wants to put fare gates on 12 of the 43 stations on these lines, or 27.9%. Having two different fare payment paradigms on the same line does not meet the report's stated goal of maintaining consistency in customer experience. GO Transit in 2018 moved 215,000 passengers on trains and 61,000 passengers on buses. GO Transit has 68 rail stations and 0 fare gates. 77%, almost 78% of all its daily passengers use POP on the GO network. We talk about integration between our sibling transit agencies, but the TTC wants to put different fare collection method on 12 of 149 rail stations in the GTHA. That's including GO, ION, Hurontario, and Lines 5 and 6. The TTC already has fare protection between POP streetcars and the legacy rapid transit lines. There's no reason why they can't do the same between lines 5 and 6 and the legacy lines. We currently have 75 legacy rapid transit stations. In 2024, we will have 43 of the 21st century's rapid lines, but only 70 of the rapid transit line stations, the legacy ones. When the western extension of Line 5 will add 5 more stations, the new, or the real Line 3 will add another 19 stations. Both of these are Metrolinx projects and will be built to their fare collection standards. That brings the mix of of current rapid transit stations, or 21st century rapid transit stations and legacy stations to 69 in 21st century and 73 legacy stations. Add the 21 extra stations from the Line 5 extension, and we're now putting 90 legacy 21st century rapid transit stations compared to the 73 standard subway stations we have. It's time for the TTC to join the 21st century. This report wants to buy 200 more fare gates, the cost of which, of operating all these fare gates, is $6.9 million per year, or $440 per month for each fare gate. To put that in a more real number, just the gates wanted for Lines 5 and 6 will cost $88,000 a month, or 564 Metro passes, and that's just for 12 to 43 stations. Just a reminder, we'll be speaking about the TTC's budget next month. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for the deputant? Seeing none, I'm going to move back into committee, and thank you, Alan, for your words today. So back to committee. Is there any other questions on this item? Any speakers on this item? I don't see any speakers. So I will ask for a mover then of the item. McKelvey has her hand up, so moved. All in favor? Opposed? That carries. Thank you very much. We're going to move to our next item, which is item 5, 2022 schedule of meetings, and we have another deputant, Alan Ewell. Alan, you can. Alan.
Hi there. Last year, I expressed concern over the reduction in the number of TTC board meetings. It turns out I might have been right on that concern. Last year, we had a total of 93 action items brought before the TTC board for review. This year, that number is down to 54 action items brought before the board review for oversight by TTC commission members and members of the public. That's a 41.94% reduction in the number of action items brought before the board this year. I know it's pesky that TTC passengers keep insisting on wanting to have their say. It can be quite annoying. Yeah, but those pesky passengers pay for 62% of the operational costs, and yet you want to reduce the opportunities for input even more. Next year, you want to reduce the number of meetings to only 5. Yes, it's an election year, but in 2018, Josh Cole's TTC board managed to have 10, and you want 5. In the 2014 election year, Maria Ajamari and Karen Stintz were the chairs of that during that term period. They managed to have 10 meetings that year as well. There is no scheduled TTC December meeting for 2022. This is the first time I can recall that no TTC board meeting has been held in December. This meeting is often used to take care of stuff that has been piled up for the past 4 months, and not having that meeting in December pushes that stuff farther ahead until January. Yes, this report says the TTC chair may call a special meeting if required to deal with urgent items. After all, we had a special meeting last year and a special meeting the year before, both in December. The problem with special meetings is that either by design or coincidence, and I'm not going to speak to either or what it might be, this reduces the number of members of the public that can get to participate in the meeting because they didn't find out about the meeting in time. Madam Chair, you may have noticed that I'm the only person to sign up to speak this meeting. That may be in part because the agenda was posted less than 48 hours before the deadline to sign up to speak. People didn't necessarily have a chance to speak, get their act together to speak to it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any questions for the deputant? Okay, I have a question for staff. On the December meeting, I'm assuming a meeting wasn't scheduled because it's a new term. So this is just to end this term, which basically all meetings end in July, correct?
Through the chair, that's correct. We will call a special meeting in December once we have a new board appointed.
That's the common practice, that there is a meeting called.
Yes, that's correct, Chair.
Okay. So any other questions of staff on this item? Any speakers? I'm just going to speak quickly. I just want to be really clear about this. This is just to end this term. March is the only month that doesn't have a meeting, as you can see. So basically, we have a meeting outside of January where City Council does not meet. But the thing is that we probably will call special meetings. We did last year. In 2021, we did call 2 special meetings, one in May and one in November, which was an emergency meeting. And it is the nature of the organization that you do have to, on occasion, call a special meeting. So it's a pretty full agenda. And I would say that it's highly likely before the year ends, we will, well, I know we're having a meeting December 8th. That's scheduled, and there's highly likely that we will have a budget meeting called either end of December or, well, probably around the week before Christmas or in January. So again, extra meetings. So if the meeting happens December 20th, the budget meeting, we'll have had 4 meetings, this board, since November 5th. November 5th, November 29th, December 8th, and December 20th. I'd say that's a very ambitious schedule, and I appreciate everybody's time and ability to move your time and schedules around given the cyber attack and having to shift the meetings. So I want to thank everybody, and I don't have any concerns with the schedule before us. Like I said, there will be special meetings called as required. I'll move this item unless there's any other speakers on the item. All in favor? Opposed? That carries, and that dispenses with item 5. We're on to item, we did item 6. So we're on to item 7. And I know Commissioner Jaggio, I think, has questions on this item. So we'll go ahead, Commissioner.
Yeah, just a few. Thank you, Chair Robinson. Half of this question is selfish because I'm just curious to understand some of the line items. But before getting into that, I'm always skeptical of looking at numbers where at the end of the year we're going to be on par and there's going to be 0 variance. So I'm curious to know from staff, is that based on an average? Is that based on projections, from a high-low? And if so, what does the high look like and what does the low look like? Because if you can get to 0 variance, that's awesome. But I'm skeptical that it's going to happen.
So through the chair, it's not a high-low. In fact, if you refer to page 2 of the report, it actually lays out both the results year-to-date as well as the year-end projection. And the year-end projection is pretty precise, actually. So what we're showing here, well, yes, you're correct, Commissioner, that it is a 0 net. Essentially, what we're seeing here is under achievement of revenues by year-end that total about $47.5 million. And just an additional foregone reserve draw, which essentially is saying to us, to everyone, that we had a budgeted draw built into the 2021 budget that we will no longer require. So that's 15.8. So that's 63.3 million on the revenue and recovery side that will be under. However, we are under in our expenditures for Ttc conventional Wheeltrans by a total of projected to total of 99 million, and that offsets the revenue draw. At City Council on October 1st, a motion was adopted by City Council that directed that any underspending at year end would be put into a TTC stabilization reserve. That's $36 million. So when you take the 99 million of underspending, offset the revenue loss and the foregone reserve draw of 63.3 million, that leaves you 36.1 million that we're putting into the reserve. That brings you to zero projected for year end.
Awesome, appreciate that. I clearly missed that reserve contribution. Thank you. My second question is quick. I was looking at the chart on page 10, and when you look at some of the expenses, the one thing that stands out to me is the other corporate costs. So question 1A is, what is other corporate costs? Just curious to know what's in that line item. And I was also wondering, because when you look at the 2021 projection versus what actually happened in 2020, there's like almost like a 15% delta in why that's gone up so high. So I'm just curious to know what do other corporate costs entail, and why have they gone up so high?
So through the chair, other corporate costs include things such as our WSIB costs that are built into there, some of our medical and dental claim costs. So those are budgeted for corporately, and so we're seeing an increase that is more significant, which will also see repeat itself in our 22 budget submission.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Very much, Commissioner Jaggio. Commissioner Lai next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I read in the report that 81% spend rate. I just wanted to, I think it's quite a high spend rate here, 81%, given COVID and all that. I just wanted to kind of make reference to the previous years. Is it considered to be a high spend rate on the capital budget?
So through the chair, it is projected on the higher side. We have been improving over the last 5-year period. So it does, in fact, look better. And when you actually look at top of page 3, we do have some underspending because of property acquisitions that are still in negotiation, and we're projecting to be as high as 84%. So we are doing better. We're spending a lot of more time focusing on ensuring that our cash flow funding is aligned with our timelines of our projects and our deliverables, and making sure that where we have seen underspending, we can accelerate capital works that might be moving ahead of schedule to offset those that might be behind.
Okay, my next question would be for the Scarborough Sub Extension, the spend is only 34% of budget, and because it is due to a change in work. I have received an update by Metrolinx last week on the Scarborough Sub Extension. Can you explain what this change in work means?
So through the chair, I'll start. So this is the SRT Life Extension project that's been classified under the overall Scarborough Subway Extension. So back in February 2021, the board decided to keep the SRT in service until Q3 2023, rather than what was initially planned for 2026 service end date. And so the work plan's been adjusted, and so the spending activities come down from what had been previously anticipated. So it was a board decision around the SRT life extension service date and the work required to maintain that end of life timeline.
Thank you. And my last question would be, do we feel comfortable, not comfortable, do we feel positive about the under the province's Save Restart agreement that we're going to get our funding with our 2021 shortfall?
So through the chair, we are based on recent discussions with the province, we understand that there may be some unused SRA funding that we are going to be eligible for. So we're hoping that we can claim that through what they're calling Phase 3 top-up funding. And that should close the budget gap that we've been reporting all year, which is $103 million.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Those are my questions. Thank you, staff.
Commissioner, thank you very much, Commissioner. Commissioner Lalonde is next.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. One question, I don't see any reference to the cyber incident expenses that we would have incurred. Is that because those expenses are largely or entirely covered by insurance?
So through the chair, we, at the time of writing this report, we were deep in the midst of cyber expenses. So we are tracking them. They were not included because the work isn't completed, but much of it will be eligible for insurance recovery. But they're just not here yet because as we are continuing to go through the investigation work, there could be additional expenses. So we'll have that fully once we complete that work.
Okay, thank you.
Questions from our commissioners? Commissioner Osborne, please go ahead.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I had a question on one of the projects that got updated in the appendix on this item, and that is the Easier Access Phase 3. I know we're required to have all of our stations accessible by 2025, and this project on the status outlook is noted as at risk. So I'm wondering what happens if we don't make that deadline. I know we've had special dispensation in certain places where there's going to be a big structural change, something's getting torn down, but what about these ones that are on the schedule to be completed but are listed as at risk? What do we do if we don't make that deadline?
Through the chair, again, the ones that you're seeing, we've actually looked at mitigation actions for all the risks. As part of any project, what we do is raise all the risks that we think may happen, and then we start looking at mitigating them. So as we go through each project, we're listing those out, putting mitigation plans in place to mitigate them. Again, as you can see from the schedule, you can see we've got quite a few of them right at the very end in Q4 2024. Within each of those schedules, there is actually a risk allowance allowed within those in a time scale. So we're monitoring that as we actually get through each and every one of those to mitigate against the risks where we go. We actually had a meeting with our counterparts at the city this weekend, and one of the risks we looked at was permits and approvals. So we're discussing with them about putting additional resources in to help us actually maintain and get the permits and approvals ahead of time to actually assure us so we can actually deliver these projects on time.
Okay, so if there is something though that
just stepping out from TTC
to
talk to you. So just two things. Can you hear me? Okay?
Commissioner McKelvey, we can hear you. Okay, sorry, Commissioner Osborne, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to find out, I mean, stuff does come up, and I do appreciate you're doing mitigation, and obviously that's critical at this point because these are the projects that are really up against it on the calendar. And I know that we have put the most complicated ones at the end while we sort out how to manage the more complex construction and other issues. I still have the question, what happens if we don't make it, in spite of best efforts, which I do appreciate are actually ongoing? Is there something that happens that if we don't make that deadline?
Through you, Chair, it's the CEO. Well, I'd like to address that one. As of last week, what we've been doing is we're looking at all possible options for expediting the delivery of these. I've asked Gary when we did meet with the city manager, getting the extra help. We have a number of extra teams put together internally. We're looking at this as failure is not an option. We're looking with 3 years to go. We're going to identify now what it's going to take to get that additional assistance, even from the standpoint of, looking at how many are being delivered in Q4 of 2024 and how many can we bring in. Again, working with the construction industry as well, because many of them are the same, as you would imagine, bringing them in a quarter. So that's what we're working on. And then back in June, you may recall the chair made a motion, and we'll be having a board report coming in and looking at all of the Easy Access program. You'll receive it on Wednesday, as a matter of fact. For next month's report, and we're looking at along those lines. But that's how we're addressing this now. Not looking for, I'm going to say, not looking for excuses 3 years from now. We're addressing everything today.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? I see none, so I'm going to move to speakers on this item. Any speakers? Okay, I'll just say 2 words, and that is this. I want to thank the TTC staff. This is, in a sense, quite frankly, remarkable. That's where we are with no funding shortfall for 2021, given the year and a half, 2 years almost we've had. Slow ridership recovery, slower than we'd like, but it is coming back. I mean, I'm happy to hear the jump in the figure since the CEO report went to print. The figure has jumped. So happy to see those riders back. Please come back. It's a safe system. We've gone above and beyond to make sure it is, and we want to fully recover as an organization and make sure we're getting riders and residents across the city to work, live, and play. So I just want to thank Josie, our CEO, and her team as well. She's not our CEO. She's our CFO. I just promoted you, Josie. I think she's passing out. I want to thank our CFO, Josie, and her entire team, as well as our CEO, who I know has a major hand in all of this and works very hard to be fiscally responsible. And I just think the fiscal management at the TTC has just improved significantly over the last few years, and I'm very happy to see it. And they're working really hard and doing great work around the clock on this. And with this mishap that's happened just recently in November, everything really got sidelined. So I'm just really pleased. And I do want to also thank a couple more people. And that is Karen Thornburn, who has worked very hard to help secure the money and work with the other levels of government on this, particularly the province, obviously, who have been very generous to us repeatedly, quite frankly. Karen, thank you very much for your hard work doing those intergovernmental relations and working with our CEO. But also I want to thank, from the bottom of my heart, Luke Robertson in the Mayor's office for his work on this, because he has been a superstar in helping us at the TTC from the Mayor's team. So Luke, Karen, Josie, and of course Rick, our CEO, thank you very much for getting us here. Notwithstanding, we want to celebrate this small win, but notwithstanding that, we do have a big challenge ahead of us in 2022, a mammoth challenge. So I look forward to you, all of us collectively, figuring out how to navigate that, because that's going to be a bigger challenge than we face. But thank you to all the board members and for everybody for your involvement in this. Okay, so I will move a motion on that unless anybody else wants to speak, and I don't think so. So I will move, not a motion, I will move to approve the fiscal update for the period ended October 2nd, 2022, and major projects update. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. And before we adjourn, I just want to remind board members, we're going to see each other a lot this month, and virtually, but not in person. But we do have another meeting December 8th, because this one was delayed due to the cyber attack. And there probably will be, I alluded to it earlier, and I think there's been phone calls made, there probably will be a meeting December 20th to tackle the budget. So I just want to, that's not 100%, but it's very close. So I just want to again note that since November 5th, this board will have met 4 times by the end of the year, which I think is an ambitious schedule. And so December 8th for sure, December 20th probably, but we will be in touch with you in the next couple of days to firm that up. So thank you to the board again for a productive meeting today and for all your great questions and comments. And at this time, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. All those in favor, Cynthia Lai had her hand up first. So all those in favor, well, I guess we don't have to do that. But anyway, have a great day, and we'll see you on the 8th. Thanks, everyone.
Good job. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, staff.